Hello. It is beautiful out here. I am house sitting for a friend, so get a nice change of pace, which I really appreciate. So, something I am thinking about today, I think that when it comes to being recovered and continuing to develop more and more resilience in our lives, that often there is a lot of anxiety that we have to, or we get the opportunity to, practice managing in different ways than we did before. Different ways that we might not have even imagined is possible. And I wanted to share some ways that I've been managing my own anxiety that's been really helping. And I've actually been pretty surprised at how much it helps because um, when I was younger and even just last year, um, when I really started to make a lot of progress in learning how to manage my anxiety. Um, Even last year, I wish that I had known these things at that time. So it's something that is so important um, for maintaining resilience is feeling encouraged, right? It's feeling calm, feeling just certain, those kind of underlying things that we take for granted before we have these kind of traumatic PTSD type experiences and circumstances, which are often implicated in recovered people, these kind of circumstances. Um, just because there's a reason why we turn to coping with addictions in the first place. And second of all, there's a lot of um, trauma and accidental situations we can get into when we are um, distracting and not open to feeling our feelings and thinking our thoughts. When we are using addictions to numb from those things, there's a lot of circumstances that it can land us in that otherwise we wouldn't have um, been in, maybe. And also, you know, life is just life. So, whoever we are, whatever recovered identity or not, um, we are always going to come to these kind of circumstances. So it's just a human thing. It's just a life for everybody type of thing. Um, but I think, at least for me on my journey, I associate being recovered with themes of just intense anxiety, the anxious ways of interpreting the world around me in general, interpreting myself, not just like anxious symptoms, like, oh, I feel kind of nauseous or I feel like really tense and, but um, more so like an entire mental perspective on the world, just the way that we believe about who we are and what the world is about and our place in the world. All this, it can feel unsafe to where our default belief and just kind of the obvious perspective that we have is that everything is just nefarious and um, scary and all these things. So managing anxiety, I think it's important to remember that when we have these thoughts that are they can kind of spiral, like we have these like what if worries or um, you know, I think that anger can also go in under this bracket. Anger is, I think, kind of like the more empowered, protected form of fear, you know? So it's like we aren't feeling crippled by it. We're feeling like we can act in the face of the fear, but the base is still there's some kind of fear, and it's important to identify um, deeper, look into it a little deeper to help ourselves handle um, this bodily sensation and emotion with a narrative that is helpful for ourselves, for our goals, for ourselves, and for our connections with those we love, and just for the kind of experiences we want to have in life. So, um, the way that I really like to interpret anxiety is, um, to just kind of when I feel bad, when I start to feel like, oh, the world is not safe, or like, oh, I am tripped out, oh, I am like, oh no, what if like everything starts distorting like the way I see everything? What if I, kind of using my active imagination to think of things in a fearful tone. Maybe when I was younger, I would think like, oh, wouldn't that be so cool if all of a sudden, like, I started to feel my connection to reality change. I remember when I was younger, like, I used to stare, um, and just like stare, like hoping to see things like move in front of me, like in movies where it shows people's perspectives, kind of, or when it's like illustrating drug kind of experiences, like those kind of things, like altered states of consciousness. I really wanted to feel connected to the world like that when I was young. So I would try to imagine that was happening, and it's like I have noticed that I still kind of do that, but now it is in a fearful tone, like in a what if I don't have control over things kind of tone. What if I feel sick? What if I feel nauseous and terrified? And kind of going back to memories of these times when I did feel pretty disempowered and terrified and trapped in being alive, which isn't a position that any of us need to be in. Um, it is a position that we all can extricate ourselves out of it. It might just take a little bit of practice and repetition and reminding ourselves that it is, it takes a while to change our habitual um, thoughts and mental narratives and the way that we interpret kind of what's happening, who we are, what we're doing, what's happening right now. It can take a while for that to adjust, especially when our physiology is maybe really stressed and we have that kind of like bodily tension. So it's really important to be supplementing ourselves with stretching and remembering that we might feel really bad in one moment, but if we can um, notice if we're like, hunched over or something, and it might be a really small change to help ourselves like physiologically feel better, which will then translate to how we feel mentally and emotionally. If you can just like do things like having yourself open, communicating to yourself that you are safe, um, things that you can communicate sometimes only on a non-verbal kind of level. Do you want me to show this? You have to drop it if you want me to throw it. He doesn't know drop. Can I have it, please? No. Okay. um. Yeah. It's just a matter of us trying to reestablish that connection between our body and our mind, so that our subconscious kind of narrative of what's going on. Sorry. Get it. Okay. So that our subconscious narrative of what's going on, good boy, is always good boy, really just totally different from what we had believed our default base level is, and our identity for what kind of experiences are open to us and are possible for us in the world, you know? What are you doing? Can I have it? I'll throw it for you if you give it to me. So happy. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, you little fluffy butt. Okay. So, yeah, communicating to ourselves in those moments when we are feeling really, really tense, afraid, when we don't maybe even necessarily have words to put to it, but our default is just kind of, you know, something bad is happening. Am I going to feel pain? Is like, am I crazy? Is the way that I see the world going to be totally distorted? I'm going to be sick. I'm going to have illnesses, you know, just kind of really hyper focusing on illnesses. And really a huge, amazing thing about our minds is that our minds and imaginations are so powerful. And um, even that hope, that sense of comfort, the sense of comfort that comes from feeling like the track that we are on is one of safety, even that can do so much to minimize the anxiety, pain, health symptoms that we experience. Um, that sense of hope, and that we are headed towards good things, even though it might be a little bumpy right now, that is so crucial. So the things that I like to do are affirmations, like I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel open, I feel secure, I feel safe, I feel like playing and exploring, I feel like being curious and not having to just do, make decisions, be put into choices, having to be in these high pressure circumstances of what is right and what is wrong, and is one path going to lead to all these horrible consequences, and the other path would be the right one, like which door is going to be the one with the worst consequences, not having to go into all that chain of thinking, but just understanding my connection to being alive and um, choosing things. It is about, like, I already know that I'm safe base level. I'm affirming that for myself, and I understand that I am completely able to determine my own belief in reality for myself. If I say it is, that's it. It's what I say it is. Um, it is safe. I say it's safe. It's safe, and keep on repeating that, and just like reveling in the safety and comfort and security of affirming that to our own self. And I think that ties very much in with coaching ourselves, learning how to coach ourselves to be that compassionate, like stable authority voice. Like, we do have that authority um, kind of role and responsibility to ourselves, because there's so many different parts within ourselves that are playing different roles and bouncing off of each other, causing different emotions, because that is just how human minds um, understand and try to piece together like narratives, like this idea of like, okay, what's the narrative happening, what role should I play? So how should I be feeling and experiencing in this moment? What is happening? How should I interpret the sensations and the things that can be observed in front of me? So yeah, I really like affirmations that um, affirm my, can't think of the word. The closest thing I can think of right now is authority. I know there's other words, but it can't quite come to mind right now. And like helping my body be open, like dancing, just like moving, like lighthearted, just like, to feel the stretch, just feel that I am like a little human cell, a little human blob in this greater organism of life, and just kind of, you know, embracing the feelings and sensations of my body and knowing that they can be fun, lighthearted, and things don't have to be in this huge sense of any kind of pressure. Um, and yeah, so moving and checking my posture, making sure I'm not compressing anything that might be accidentally causing sensations of pain or discomfort or anxiety, physical anxiety, you know. I think sometimes I've noticed for me that I will like feel a physical symptom, and then sometimes I have become like really afraid of that, like kind of my mind starts to spin and be like, oh my God, what if this one symptom is like that one sign that it's like later down the road I'll be like, oh my goodness, that symptom was the thing that meant that this whole ordeal was going to happen, this whole health ordeal. um you know, and my mind can go into thinking, oh no, is that what I'm experiencing right now, the beginning of that? And that's not a useful way to interpret it, because, well, I noticed that for me, well, for one, what's going to happen is going to happen. And being in a positive mind state, a secure mind state, knowing we can rely on help. There are people to help us if we need it, but if if we don't need it, we can also decide to just enjoy ourselves and move. Like, don't stop moving through the pain. Like, keep on breathing, keep on moving throughout the pain, sing through the pain. Think of joy, think of beauty, think of gratitude through the pain. Remember that you are safe and secure and strong. That is your default identity, and experiencing pain doesn't change that. Experiencing pain doesn't change, or anxiety, you know, it doesn't change, or whatever the symptom is, it does not change the trajectory that you are headed towards. It does not change the depth of passion you feel towards your goals. It does not change the way that your loved ones feel about you, um, or at least it shouldn't, you know. Within trusting relationships, and it's important that you're able to affirm that to yourself so that you can be available to receive that supportive relationship when it comes into your life. Um, so yeah, the physical. I noticed that when I've had symptoms, continuing what I was saying before, when I've had symptoms, um, especially of pain, sometimes of anxiety, you know, it's kind of like I picture it. Sometimes it's like, you know, my body is needing my conscious mind to recognize it and assess it so that my body can be like, okay, the kind of the logical analytical one knows what's going on, so I can just relax and do my job. I've passed the message on to that part of me, you know, my analytic mind. And the analytic mind is like the brains of the operation. They can figure it out, think like what to do with this information. But it's like my body will get sometimes louder and louder the more that I just kind of snooze or like go to try to ignore, try to distract from the sensation I'm feeling. I've noticed that it can really help to be like, thank you, body, for delivering me this message. I understand that you're not entirely comfortable right now, but I love you, and we're going to figure out how to keep on feeling better and better, because we are strong, we are resilient, and we are um, experiencing life through the lens of joy. We are lovers of being alive because there's so much beauty and so much miraculous things to enjoy and take pleasure in. And just reassuring myself, you know, that any concerns I might have, remembering that there are pros and cons to anything, but when we are authentic to ourselves, those those cons don't feel like horrific, you know? The cons should never feel horrific. The cons that feel horrific, cons should just be like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but in the end, the trade off is worth it, If anything feels like horrific torture, just not getting that sense of reward out of it, that just means it's incompatible and it's not authentic, or it's not able to nurture who we are authentically as individuals, because we're all different. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, advantages and disadvantages. And so it can just take a bit of experimenting to and contemplation to emphasis on experimenting, but to figure out what really nurtures us as individuals. So, yeah, that kind of I think it's really important to just acknowledge the symptoms that we are experiencing, and thank that part of us delivering the message, and be like, we're on this together, and we have a lot of outside help. Um, from our environment, from people, from organizations, from animals, from just the beauty of nature and just the essence of the universe itself, like the fabric of, if it really comforts you to think of, have those kind of spiritual assumptions that there are positive beings protecting you, looking out for you. That can be a really powerful tool also. Um, so just you know, whatever tool it is that helps you feel protected, I think is so beautiful and so strong and courageous for people to rely on. Um, and I don't know. I've had experiences, where people in the mental health field have definitely demonized some some ways that me personally, but more so people on a general scale, use to feel empowered and strong, and safe, um, and to release that physiological anxiety. Um, and I don't know. I was reading in a book recently about paganism that there's, I guess it's, if I can remember how it was described, it was like, since Isaac Newton in the late 1600s, he wrote about gravity and, I don't know, velocity, but whatever else. I'm not a historian. He it's like kind of the default perspective of the world has been to the mechanistic kind of view, in the sense that, the universe is an impartial machine. There are these laws of nature that that work regardless of humans, and that was really important in one sense to help people, and just humanity transition out of this phase where the dominant view was being terrified of gods and goddesses and spiritual beings, feeling like things that happened was never coincidental or because of the laws of nature, but that everything had some big spiritual deep meaning and association, and like kind of poetic artistic subjective meaning that people would apply to themselves, and kind of in fear. And there's a lot more fear back then because there's a lot less technological advances and just like material resources available to the general public, because it was pre-industrialization and all this. So because of that, people, it was really helpful at that time to help, um, support our minds, our human minds, to not, see a cup fall and then be like gripped in fear, like, oh my god, the cup fell because like a god is trying to get my attention, that this means that when I see a cup fall 3 years from now, it will be the end of my daughter's life, or whatever kind of like associations that come from all our fears and like the murky kind of pot of our consciousness and all the information and reference points, everything in there, and it's like our mind just kind of generates some kind of random meaning, and then it can cause us to be less effective in our everyday lives, because we're kind of going on this superstitious kind of thing. The Newtonian view was like, okay, just be like, it's gravity. It's gravity. Whoops. Shouldn't have bumped the table. That's it. The end. Put our energy towards other things. Save our emotions for other circumstances. That kind of thing. But this book I was reading, it was saying also that some things have been lost since then, in the sense of understanding how powerful our minds are to use for good, not just like fear, being overwhelmed by fear, but using our minds to imagine really powerful good things. And it's kind of like our technological advances in abundance of material resources have made it kind of safe at this time in history to kind of open back up to I'm not sure what to call it. The book didn't really call it anything except for paganism, but that's not really a general enough term for the perspective I'm coming at it from. But just this sense that like our imagination and our felt sense, going back to the Waking the Tiger book, discussing the felt sense, where our perceptions, our memories, our reference points, all these things in our minds unite with our bodily sensations to construct a really powerful, motivating, like authentic experience of what's happening, and connection to the people and environment around us. And that is so beautiful because it can motivate us to take really heartfelt action, being cautious and looking out for the well-being of ourselves and others, and thinking long term, making decisions long term, with just more awareness of cause and effect in mind, and being able to use this power of the imagination to be more intrinsically motivated, and kind of come into actualize our authority. That was another kind of thing about the Newtonian mechanistic perspective from what I was reading in this book. You want it? Get it! From what I was reading in this book. Good boy! Yes! Good boy! From what I was reading in this book, that mechanistic perspective, it also filtered not just the way that we perceived physical objects, but also the way that we perceived human beings, people, psychology. The way that people perceive and understand human beings in this mechanistic perspective. It kind of led to this belief that humans aren't intrinsically motivated, and they will only behave if they have an outside force driving, pushing them to, especially when it comes to growth or change or being open to new perspectives. So I thought that was really interesting to read about. It's just because I think that's a really important part of kind of what everybody, or the theme of the opportunities, the different opportunities that we now have as humans because of where we are as a collective culture. Just this sense that we are all learning how to be self-organized, self-motivated. I know so many people have been doing this forever, but I just feel like it's more and more people are able to come into this, especially through information through the internet, where we are able to really reflect on our thoughts and feelings, and hopes and dreams, and use all this information, use the power of our logical mind to combine with um, our bodily experiences of like what actually feels like a reward, what helps us feel better in our bodies, what makes life more enjoyable, and using this love for pleasure and ease to um, to help us grow and participate as a culture together, like intentionally, without needing these outside kind of consequences or forceful behaviors or threats, bribes, um, these kind of these kind of things that have been really heavily relied upon in the past. So um, I think it's really cool. It's really cool time to be alive, and I'm really grateful for access to the internet, for internet existing at this time. Things are really changing. It'll be really cool to see where things are, like, 40. I don't know why I said 40. Probably because I feel like I only have like 40 years left to live. I don't know. Like 40 years from now or whenever. Um, yeah. So I think that it's really relevant to this idea of coaching ourselves, um, being able to coach and have that inner safe form of participation with being alive, where we are able to help ourselves open up and grow and be in circumstances while minimizing the suffering involved. Um, and when we choose that, like, well, I want to go down this path, but I know it's going to be really difficult, just realizing that we have the tools to do that, so that addictions aren't what we fall back on, or anything with negative side effects, you know, where the cons are more than the pros. Um, and yeah, having that way to regulate our own emotions by being proactive and preventing the emotion from starting. And, these like fearful, um, afraid, closed down kind of emotions. And then also these tools to be able to change um, the way that we perceive and form a narrative around the circumstances that we're in the moment. Um, like once we have already experienced those emotions, like how to draw ourselves out of it, or how to just be honest and authentic to it, so that we can um, feel certain and secure and proud of the choices that we make, and happy with the life that we're living. Because that's the biggest mark. I feel like I have always kind of had this question in my head of, like, well, how do I know if what I'm doing is right? And I think a lot of people have that, especially from being brought up in environments like schools or just workplaces, where it's always kind of like you're looking to an outside source, um, to like give the thumbs up or the thumbs down. And I think it's really important to be able to remember how, relearn, maybe learn for the first time ever, learn how to feel secure within ourselves. Like, okay, things are going good because I say it's good. I know I can trust myself because I'm a very cautious person. I can trust my assessment of if it's good, if things are going good or not, because I have everything organized as much as possible in the present moment of what I need to do, of all the different moving pieces. And I'm always on the lookout for more moving pieces, more things to learn. And because, we can have confidence and certainty in ourselves, especially as recovered people, because we aren't numbing our thoughts and emotions and handicapping our flow of energy through things with negative side effects. So we can trust ourselves. And a part of relearning that trust for ourselves is being able to affirm, like, yes, when I'm doing my process here, this is exactly what I need to do. This is right. And learning to enjoy the process of, like, normally the things on the to-do list that have us feel kind of anxious, learning how to just what works for us best as individuals, how to negotiate the difference between, when do I let it go a little bit? When do I like hold tight and just put in that work to change my mindset? And I think it is just whatever we can do in the moment. You know, being authentic with ourselves. If it's like lifting a weight, if we can't lift this weight today, or we feel like it might like give us an injury, then that's okay. We don't need to do it today. We do a lighter one, and then eventually we work up to that bigger one. Just remembering we're a part of a larger process. We don't need to see this ideal goal we have in our minds of how we want to experience things, how we want to process things, how we want to move through managing our energy and time and our interpretations of narratives. We don't have to see that ideal and then think, okay, I got to match myself to that right now because that's my ideal. The you know the way to get to that ideal is to be honest with ourselves in the moment for what we can do, and realizing that we can affirm and trust now as recovered people that what we're doing is perfect, is right. Everything we do is right. It's exactly what we need for the moment. And even when it's not right, it's right because that's what was right to us in that moment until we knew it wasn't right because of some information that was moving to us. So, anyway, lots of different subjects on my mind today, but I am really grateful to have my body, really grateful that I can move, that I can dance, that I can sing, that I can breathe. Really grateful for all the people and organizations and circumstances that have supported me and that continue to support me. And I just affirm for you that you will continue to remember what that mental posture inwardly inside of you, what that feels like. What are the thoughts, the images, the sensations that run through you when you are picturing security, safety, just as like the underlying assumption. The underlying assumption that we all had, well, not all of us had, honestly, like as children, but that you have experienced in a greater capacity than now, maybe. You've experienced in a greater capacity at some time in your life, even if it wasn't like all the way to 100% or whatever. It was still 100% of your given capacity, given your individual advantages and disadvantages. So, I just affirm that you will be able to experiment with tapping into what that feels like for you perceptually, and how that, just experimenting in your mind with how that affects the narrative that you hold of who you are, what you're doing, your identity, your potential, and therefore your connection to your environment, your community, people you love, and just kind of your place in this world. And that you will affirm to yourself that what I'm doing is right, what I'm doing is good. This is what the process of success and health looks like, because I say it is, and I know what I'm doing is healthy and is supportive and is beautiful for what I am able to do in this moment. And that's all we need. Um, so in those moments of anxiety and fear, just start with affirming. Start with helping your body be in different positions that are loosening to it. Breathe and just continue affirming that you have faith that even though, like, thank you mind, thank you, that part of our mind, you're trying to alert me that something might be wrong. I understand. Thank you, body, for trying to alert me something might be wrong. I understand. Thank you for this information. That I am in control right now, and I'm saying that we are safe, we are secure. I love you guys. I have you guys, and I am absolutely able to access the help that I need um, externally. If I gotta help us feel better, have external support and help. But I also know when I don't need that external help, and when I can manage it on my own, and just remembering that pain and fear is not to be the focus. It's not to be the primary focus and the driving decision and the thing on which we base all of our decisions and our identity and our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Um, and that we can absolutely continue to practice seeing the beauty, the excitement, the joyful things, the dreams, and remembering we're still on that track even if we feel sick for a moment. Just affirming we are always safe. Our responsibility is just to let go and let our higher power support us um, in whatever way you feel that, you know, and to support ourselves as we can in whatever ways we've experimented with or want to try experimenting with that um, that feel interesting or helpful or give us hope and a sense of empowerment and control in the moment. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I will be back soon. And enjoy some fresh air today in whatever way that looks like. Take care.